And not only that, but Bill won't pilfer the money or the food that is being donated, kind of like Jerry Shirley.
Yeah, like Jerry Shirley, 30 Days in the Hole. One of the all-time Cleveland stories, man. What did he do? He would sit in a back of a tractor trailer.
Yeah, he would live in a trailer in the back of a tractor trailer for the 30 days.
Right.
Because that Humble Pie song, that 30 Days in the Hole.
Yeah, and he played on it or something, right?
Yeah. Well, he was in Humble Pie.
Right.
And, so that was his claim to fame, not only being a disc jockey in Cleveland on the classic rock station, WNCX.
Yeah, that's right.
But, he would do that food drive between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Right.
And live in the tractor trailer and collect food and donations and this and that. And he got busted taking the money.
I know. What a dick. He literally sat there letting the station draw people to him, and they'd hand him money and he put it in his pocket.
Right.
What a dick.
Yeah. I mean, he did that for years, but I guess he must have fallen on hard times or something to where he pilfered the cash.
Can't imagine. I mean, radio pays well. Never mind.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think Jerry Shirley commanded for a salary?
I don't know, but I mean, he was a quote-unquote celebrity personality on the radio station. I mean, it was like having Michael Stanley. Obviously, he's more local.
Right.
But he did have some national success.
Right.
And who else? Oh, who else was in Cleveland for a while, but obviously was way bigger than any of those guys, was the guitarist for the Eagles.
Joe Walsh. He had a radio show?
Yeah, he did radio in Cleveland for a while. I think they had the James Gang was from Cleveland, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were from here.
Yeah, and I think Joe Walsh was on radio for a little while in Cleveland.
Yeah, I know Bob Golick, the football player, has a radio show here on WNIR, which I think it's a talk show. I think you would love it because he absolutely brutalizes Democrats.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, as a musician / celebrity / disc jockey, I'm sure that whatever, radio stations could afford to pay at the time.
Right.
He probably was doing okay.
Yeah. I'd imagine they do okay, but not crazy numbers. I mean,
no, I would say maybe 50 to 80 a year.
Yeah, I think Stanley makes more than that, but I'm pretty sure he makes like six figures. But I don't know why he's boring as fucking.
Yeah, but he's Paul Stanley. Michael Stanley. Yeah, Michael Stanley.
Yeah, great.
But yeah, he's a local celebrity guy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, dude, with that guy, and I'm a fan of his music, even though he is a monumental cunt.
Yeah.
But do you think that he would even be remotely the local legend that he is if he hadn't had the one song, My Town, which Cleveland embraced as their theme song?
Well, he did get some national airplay.
With what? Take the Time?
Well, he did have some minor hits in the 80s.
Nationally?
Yeah, nationally. Because when I lived in California, you could buy Michael Stanley Band records at the record store.
Let's figure out what they were. Because I never knew that. The only song that I remember was Take the Time. I'm a fan. I'll be the first one to admit it. I quite literally have all 30 or whatever of his albums on my phone downloaded.
Yeah, well, I got to be honest. Even in his height of popularity, I was never a fan.
I like him. I like him a lot.
I didn't hate him. I just was never a fan.
Yeah. But Take the Time was the only song that had an MTV video. And I remember because it was some really wretchedly bad video with him riding a horse. He's riding a horse pretending he's in the fucking, the Old West.
Sure.
The big dumb hat on going, you gotta take the time to love.
Oh, well, probably. No, here's the big one. He Can't Love You Like I Love You.
Yeah. That was pretty good. But then he fired that singer.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. That still kind of launched him because that song got some airplay around the nation.
Yeah, all right. Wow. According to, I'm looking at the singles right now.
Uh-huh.
It looks like he had 7 singles that were on radio, that were national pop hits.
Right.
He Can't Love You was the highest at number 33. It got to number 33 on the Billboard charts.
Okay.
Then he had Lover, which, here in Cleveland, everybody likes to sing the line, "Thank God for the man who put the white lines on the highway."
Right, exactly.
So that one was a number 68. Fallen in Love Again was number 64. When I'm Holding You Tight was 78. Take the Time was number 81. My Town was 39. Really? Do you remember that song? I mean, it's hard with you because you did live here. You know that song, right?
I do.
Yeah. And then Someone Like You was number 75. And then Dead. Just dead.
Yeah, but at that time, he probably had a good 3 to 5 year run.
Yeah, that's all the hits were from 1980 through 1983.
All right, see, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
But he did have some success.
Yeah, he had some. I did not realize that this many songs were known nationally.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that he couldn't break out, but fucking much less talented guys like Billy Squier had fucking 15 hits. And I like Billy Squier too, but Billy Squier had a lot of hits with some really questionable music.
Sure. Well, that was the same time that Donnie Iris kind of was coming up in the ranks.
Yeah.
And he tapped the Cleveland band Breathless to be the Cruisers.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
So,
and he had, 2 hits?
Yeah, only 2 major hits. Yeah, Love Is Like a Rock and Aaliyah, of course.
Yeah. I like Donnie Iris. I like those 2 songs. I can't say I know anything else. But,
right.
I've seen him a couple times to play a bunch of songs I didn't know in those 2 songs.
But that was at the same time, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I just look more on the national scale. I'm thinking 80 to 83. What was... Billy Squier jumped out to immediately because he had "Don't Say No," which was a good album.
Yeah. Well, another band, and I'm not saying they're alike in their style. I'm just saying that the genre, I guess.
Right.
The Police were coming up, and Tom Petty was really coming up at that time, and John Mellencamp was coming up at that time too.
Jay Giles.
Yeah, Jay Giles too.
1982 rock hits. I'll just go right in the middle. 1982.
So it was kind of that, what did they call it, that Heartland music.
Yeah, because now that I'm looking at it, a lot of these bands were that same stuff. Eddie Money.
There you go.
Steve Miller Band, 38 Special, Survivor, Asia. These are all sort of the same style of music.
Yeah, they weren't metal and they weren't classic rock. They were, they were I don't know what you want to call it, pop rock.
Yeah, pop, not quite hard rock, but pop. Yeah, that's probably a good one. Billy Idol was big. Don Henley had Dirty Laundry out.
There you go. That's another one that was sort of in that same vein.
Yeah, exactly. Pat Benatar.
Yeah, she was huge. She really blew up right in that time period.
Right. George Thorogood came up in that time period with Bad to the Bone.
Yep.
I'm just looking quickly through this. Crosby, Stills, and Nash with the Southern Cross.
Right.
Yeah, and America with You Could Do Magic.
Well, it was like all acoustic-driven rock.
Right.
That's really what it was.
It is, and it's all in that time frame. So I guess maybe that is why. Do you think Michael Stanley would have done better in a different era?
No.
Think he'd have done worse?
No. Yeah, I think he would have done worse.
All right.
Yeah, I think he came along at the right time. He didn't quite catch fire.
Right.
He obviously had some minor hits.
Right.
But he didn't quite catch the national fire like, some of the other guys.
Yeah. He's no mushroom head.
No. Not at all.
No, he's absolutely a mushroom head.
So he was and plus he was huge on the Blossom concert music scene because he could, do several nights there.
Yeah.
And sell out crowds.
That was always the weird thing, was that he would do like 3 nights at Blossom, sell 60,000 tickets, and then he would go to Chicago and play for 300 people.
Well, but the thing is that obviously at that time there was a lot of local pride.
Oh yeah.
And because he was getting some airplay, and because he was getting the hype in Cleveland, people were just like, hey, this is our claim to fame. This is our national guy that's going to go out there and set the concert world on fire, but it just didn't happen.
Dude, I remember seeing Michael Stanley once with my mom. We went out it was a free concert, WMMS free concert, and they had, it was at Cleveland Stadium, but it wasn't in the stadium. It was at the back of the parking lot for Cleveland Stadium.
Okay.
And they had like 50,000 people come out for this fucking thing.
Sure.
It was ridiculous how many people. There were people there. They brought sofas and stuff.
But that was the power of terrestrial radio at that time. Without local WMMS being the powerhouse rock station,
right,
that it was at that time, they were the number 1 rock station in the nation.
Yeah, they were huge.
Several years in a row. Mm-hmm. And they were behind a Michael Stanley Band, and that's what made the difference.
Yeah, it really did. Dude, you don't have to tell me, one of the greatest things of my radio career was that my first real gig was at WMMS. I can't tell you how excited. Dude, I the first time I was ever on, I was on as a guest. Matt invited me on as a guest.
Yeah, I remember that.
Online. And I could not have been more excited, because I was going to be on the station that I grew up listening to, and it was like the number 1 station in the world.
Yeah, well, who do you know some of the bands that WMMS broke?
Back in that era?
Yeah.
Well, I know. I mean, there was Michael Stanley. I used to go to a lot of shows. They used to have that free. I don't remember who all they broke, but
Rush.
Oh, yeah, they did break Rush.
They broke John Mellencamp.
MMS did?
Yep.
With what song? Ain't Even Done with the Night?
I think it was at that time, but they broke John Mellencamp. Mellencamp had his first biggest success being played on WMMS.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Now, MMS was so cool back in those days. Dude, they used to have this program, and you might, I don't know, were you here you were in California at that time, weren't you, in the early 80s?
I was in California from 85 to 91.
So you might remember this. They used to have a deal where they would have you mail in a self-addressed stamped envelope, and you had to have your envelope mailed in by Thursday. It had to be received by Thursday. And then they would announce a concert on Friday, and they would mail tickets. And you never knew what they were sending you tickets to or where it was going to be or anything. And it was always a crapshoot, but it was always national bands.
Right.
And I got to see some great bands for nothing, from MMS, where I didn't even know what I was sending in for. But, I'd beg my mom for a couple of stamps, and I'd fucking mail it off. And I know one of the bands that I saw once, and honestly, even though it's not a huge band, I'm really glad I got to see it, because I don't think that they've ever toured the States since, was Honeymoon Suite.
Oh, yeah.
Remember them?
Yeah, I do. The Canadian band. I Got a New Girl Now.
Yeah, and that was what they were touring on, was New Girl Now. And they played a free show at Music Hall.
Yeah, I know. I remember. Who was opening for them? Another guy who was into the acoustic and never really. He had I think one huge hit, and it was a kind of a package tour for Honeymoon Suite playing in the States.
Okay.
Henry Lee Summer.
Oh, I hated him.
I wish I had a girl like that.
Oh, I hated him. He had a bad mullet. He fucking wore big old parachute pants. I saw him at a what do you call that shit? In the summer, a state fair.
Okay.
It was some band called Trax that never went anywhere, and Henry Lee Summer and Eddie Money. And my dad, my mom was real big into Eddie Money, which I was too, to be honest, and still am. But so we go to this thing to see Eddie Money, and on the tickets it said 3:00. So we go and we're there at 3:00, and we get great seats at 3:00 because, of course, no one else is there to see any of these other fucking bands. And we had to sit through probably 3 hours of shit before Eddie Money came on. It was the worst. First, this band Track, it was like 14-year-old kids playing on this big giant stage. They were more excited to be on a big stage than they were to actually be performing, so they sucked. And then Henry Lee Summer jumping around singing that fucking one song and then a bunch of other shit that no one ever heard of before or after. He was terrible.
And do you know where he was from?
Hell. He was lousy. Was he Canadian? I don't know.
No, he came from Bloomington, Indiana, where John Mellencamp came from.
Well, he should have been fucking hired over at the popcorn factory instead of being a singer. Fucking jizzbag. He sucked. Did you like him?
He only had the one song. I couldn't even tell you what other songs he had. All I know is I Wish I Had a Girl Like That. And I only know that because of the MTV video.
I know the whole album because my mom bought it after seeing him and tortured me with it. It was one of the few bands that me and my mom did not agree on. She would play this fucking right. Oh, he's so great. Ugh. He was awful. He really was terrible. You know, but who else did who I got to see for free? And this was an actual big band. I couldn't believe they did it for free. It was the same type of deal. You mailed your thing in and you got free tickets. Was Starship.
Okay.
I saw Starship for free. It was like the first Starship album. You know, after Jefferson, whatever.
Right, Jefferson Starship.
Jefferson.
Yeah. And they brought on Mickey Thomas.
Yeah, it was like the We Built This City era.
Yeah.
While I hate that song, it was still pretty cool, and they sang all the songs that I did know.
Yeah, Knee Deep in the Hoopla.
Yeah, they had those songs too, Sarah and shit like that, but they were still playing Jane and Find Your Way Back, and they played all the cool songs, so that was a great show. And then who else did I see? I saw Southside Johnny once for free, and MMS did it all the time, and every time they did it, I entered, and I usually won. We went to a lot of those shows.
Well, what amazed me, though, speaking of concerts and venues and, bands that came into town, it always amazed me that Shooters down in the Flats would have these concerts.
Oh, yeah.
They would have these bands come in like a Night Ranger or like a Donnie Iris or, any one of those and play at Shooters.
Yeah. I saw Night Ranger there.
I have too.
That's the same show.
That's the first time I met Matt. I think actually you introduced me to Matt because I know Matt's a huge Night Ranger guy.
Oh yeah. The last time I went saw Night Ranger over at the Roxino, Matt took me.
Right.
We sat in the 5th row. Yeah, that probably was I probably did introduce you to Matt at that show, but